Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the
I68 podcast.
Hey, David, how are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing really good. How about you?
I'm doing good myself.
Hey, guys, it's been 5 episodes already?
Yeah, it's been 5 episodes.
Or is it 6?
No,
I feel like it's
okay.
6.
No, this is our 6th episode, and we've already had 5. So
wow. Hey, it's 6 episodes. That was a lot of work, a lot of effort put in. I've seen a lot of good stuff and negatives at the same time. What do you think, Sam? Do you see more negatives than positives or positives than negatives?
all I know is that I've had my fair share of criticism, but I also had a lot of optimistic reviews, and I'm happy about both. Okay. To be honest, I enjoyed every episode we had. It was us. We started it off, and then we got Angelique on. We got Tim and Tanya on. We got Denis on, and I think honestly, I'm happy about where this is going.
Technically, it's not, but I think this is like a form of fellowship, like where we could come together, the youth, and we could all just talk and about either a common or uncommon topic, just share our experiences, our opinions, and stuff like that. And I really believe that this podcast, even though maybe, we started off this whole thing, we kind of didn't know for sure the direction we wanted to go in. But, now that we're doing it more and more, we're all getting better. We're all seeing the bigger picture out of this. And I really hope that everyone could start getting involved. Not just me and you doing it, Sam.
Yeah.
But just like, people to open their minds, opinions, experience, and then kind of like grab biblical principles, points, and then align them together. We do have a lot of plans ahead of time, and we're thinking some stuff, especially for the next episode.
Yeah.
And we do have a surprise for all of you guys, and we'll just want to save it somewhere to the end. Not right now.
Not right now, but you guys will see what we're talking about. But we're excited about it. It's going to be a great change.
Nice. Let's dive into the topic.
Yeah, so basically, I came up to David, and I'm like, I don't know what we're going to talk about this week, but we decided that we're going to do friendship. We're going to talk about friendship today. And
whose friendship?
Whose friendship? I don't know. Our friendship.
We're friends?
We're
friends.
Okay, we're about to find out right now,
joking.
So we'll see. I just honestly, in this topic, like, there's a difference between like a worldly friendship where you can have those, of course, but I think there's something special about a spiritual friendship where you have like this like spiritual connection to a person. It's not just surface level ideas or things that connect you to that person, but it's like your heart is inclined to that person because of something God has put on you, and where you see your values match. And before we kind of like go super far into this topic, I wanted to talk about our friendship first, and like what it looks like and how we became friends essentially. And I kind of have an idea, but can you remember the first time we met and like kind of how our relationship progressed after that? Like, what was that like? Do you remember?
He expects me to remember the first time we met. No, I'm joking.
Yeah.
I feel like we've always been involved in church, and we're two personal individuals that love to, do stuff at church. Personally, I don't exactly remember first time we met. It's been a while. I just remember we doing stuff, and I didn't see a lot of other people doing certain stuff, so I just like started doing those stuff with you, kind of getting involved. Even though maybe some of those goals were for ourselves, but at the same time we wanted to be more involved with church. Do stuff for God, kind of like step out of our comfort zone. Learn to serve and all that kind of stuff. And I started getting more along with Sammy. I feel like it took me a while to understand that what we have is a friendship. My first kind of, like, I know what friendship is. I know what kind of like a more biblical view of what friendship is. But I remember someone coming up to me and he confronted me with a question. He's like, hey, what's friendship? No, what did he say? He said, who's your best friend? And I'm like, okay, Tim hasn't been calling me for the last couple of weeks, so he's not really my friend. You know, like who does the best for me? You know, like who's kind of like, you know, calling me up, inviting me, wants to hang out with me. You know, it's all
Kind of
about
like
me.
kind of like who benefits you more.
Yeah, and I kind of like that was like the first thought, like what's my friend, but you know, like I guess, you know, for younger teens, younger adults, it's more like, you know, who tags you on Instagram, who goes to the gym with you every single day, who has that 300-day streak with you on Snapchat. I mean, I guess we throw around the word friendship around very lightly, especially in our kind of like modern society. But it really took me time because to really kind of like realize who's my friend. And because it's not all about me, it's about serving, it's about benefiting each other, it's about being the strength of each other's weaknesses, having a common goal, just like not having to be forced to hang out with this person, but like wanting to. And you know, seeing that you and me, we started doing a whole bunch of stuff at church, the media team. What else do we do beside the media team?
We do a lot of little projects. Like they just come up every now and then. Maybe it's not just media team, but just like in general for the church. Like,
What's our first project?
Our first project. Dude, the quarantine interview. I remember that. That was like, see, when we started that, I didn't think that was going to go very well. I came up to you. I remember coming up to you and I was like, David, I don't want to do this alone. I don't have anyone else. And I remember I was able to count on you. That was the thing that like really gave me peace. And then when we actually started to do the video, we're like, man, this video's going to suck. Like, you just feel that. But then we did it. We like finished through, and then I edited the thing, and then we posted it. And then people were like, oh, this is actually not that bad. Mm-hmm. So that's when kind of we're like, oh, okay, this media team thing, this ministry that we started from something, it could be potentially something that we both pour in our time and our efforts into, like together, not just alone. Not like I'm going by myself and I'm like, I'm going to do this thing myself, and I think I'm going to see it through that way. But I can go to you and I'm going to be like, David, let's both work together. And you have your perspective, I have mine. And when you just have one perspective on something, then it doesn't really benefit you in any like good way. But when you have like a friend who you can count on to help you through that.
Oh, he counts on me.
That works. I like this one verse from Proverbs. It's Proverbs 18:24. It says, "One who has unreliable friends soon comes to ruin, but there is a friend who sticks closer than a brother."
Oh, that's all about me. I'm so happy.
I'm just like when I saw that verse, I was like, that's so true. Like the people who are always saying that they can't come, that they're usually not available, who don't take time to be with you. I don't see a lot of potential in that relationship initially. Maybe it will change. I think it's possible for relationships to change that way. But when I have a friend that can actually like stick with me, and I can call that person, and not even just for help for ministry. I'm not even gonna like make it this finite thing where it's just like ministry. But it's like in general, like your spiritual needs. When you need someone that you can count on for your spiritual needs, that's like amazing. But yeah.
And besides that, you looking at me and looking at you, there's a lot of differences. So, you know, we're friends. Like, for example, I'm way older.
Yeah.
Okay, actually, never mind. Let's take that back. I'm not way older. I'm not that old.
Yeah, but you're 5 years older than me.
Well, you didn't have to clarify that. Just a couple. Plus, look, I'm wearing a coat right now. I'm cold. And this guy's, what are you wearing? A shirt? This guy's hot. Like, we're polar opposites. Like,
we honestly, a lot of the times we don't see eye to eye on things. Well, actually, no. Actually, we do. Yeah. But there will be like situations where I'm just like, I don't think this is gonna work, and then you're like, no, I think this could be something, and I'm not like looking at it from your perspective, but sometimes I wish I did, you know, because
I'm right.
Yeah. Whatever.
Okay, I'm joking. This guy could be right himself. No, actually, I think that's really great. And I think there's a lot of situations where we disagree a lot. Mm-hmm. Like, actually, we disagree a lot. Like, we think... But at the same time, there's moments where we're like, hey, okay, you know, you have this idea. I think it's kind of dumb, but I'm going to go along with it.
Yeah.
I go along with it, and it actually works out well, surprisingly, whether it's my idea or your idea.
Yeah.
besides that, there's times where I ask you to do something, and you're like, David, not right now. I have a lot of homework. Or Dave, I don't want to pay for your Taco Bell. Or he asked me to do something like go, make something for him or prepare something. And of course we're like at first we're like, hey, I don't want to do this or something. But at the end we all got each other's back. We'll still go out of our comfort zone. And I guess just like that loyalty part of friendship as well.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. One thing I'll say, like, so going back to that age gap thing, it's like that's not a factor in my eyes, and here's why. It's because if you're an immature person, then you'll most likely be friends with the person who's also immature. I think, but there's still like potential for you at like a younger age to like be close to people who are more mature than you, and then slowly like churn into a more mature person that way. But if you're not mature, then you're not going to attract mature people. So it's like, I don't think age is a factor, because I think it's more based off of like maturity, and like if you guys are like in similar places like mentally, then it could potentially work out. Obviously, I'm 18. I understand that I still have a lot to learn, and that you're 23, and I still have to respect you. But in this relationship, the dynamic is different to the point where it's not like the biggest concern for me is like the age gap. The biggest concern is like...
it's not like he disrespects me. Obviously, he still respects me.
Yeah.
It's just different.
Yeah, but our relationship flows to the point where we don't even have to discuss that there's like disrespect. I don't remember a situation where we've been in where we're just like, oh man, I disrespected you, and you're like, I don't want to talk to you anymore.
Worst case, I'll just like punch him back as hard as I can.
Yeah, that's the thing, and also on that like age thing, there's like an example in the Bible that talks about this, and this is David and Jonathan, and I think, David was like, so when he just slayed Goliath, I think he was just like 16 or something.
Like historical records, yeah,
kinda.
15.
And then Jonathan was, I don't even know how old he was, like 21
something.
to 25, like mid 20s ish.
Yeah.
So you can see that there's like this like sizable difference, but we noticed that there were like in that passage that, what was it? Jonathan comes up to David, and he basically just tells him that he trusts him with his life, sort of. And that's not something that you just get like out of nowhere. Like that's like, I think to me personally, this is just God given, or it's not even personal. It's biblical that it was God given in that moment.
Well, I think that was their common goal.
Yeah.
Was God.
Yeah.
There was a lot of tests they had, a lot of points. We're not gonna go too deep into it, but it would be nice to cover, certain parts of, their relationship that we kind of could apply to, I guess, your and my life.
Yeah.
I know there's a great sermon on this topic specifically, covenant friendship. So
Denis, Kononov. If you guys,
he's an amazing preacher. You were supposed to surprise them.
Yeah.
We're kidding, but actually, I think we'll put him in the link below if you guys are interested in getting kind of like a more biblical perspective on the relationship between David and Jonathan, and what it kind of means to have a covenant friendship. I'll watch it for sure.
I will say this for sure. Denis is really good at explaining things in depth, like from a logical perspective, but also just like going into the details. And I think his sermon was really good. I remember it from like a month ago, basically, or more. You guys should definitely go check it out. And also, this is a good time to plug our sermons from our live streams. They go up every Monday, so make sure to have your notifications.
And podcast Wednesday.
All right. Anyways, back to the topic. Can you talk about this covenant friendship between David and Jonathan?
Yeah, I mean, so practically here's the kind of situation. There's like three main characters. There's the king, the father of Jonathan, and at one point he disobeyed God and he lost God's blessing. And there's David, the poor commoner who had God's blessing because his heart was after God, and God blessed him and gave him strength to defeat Goliath, made him popular with all the ladies in the town. And then the king, seeing all of that, he got super jealous, super angry, and he tried to get rid of David. Now, Jonathan saw what his dad was doing, yet anyway, he was still a loyal friend to David and was still there to help him out. They had a couple of specific situations. One was Jonathan, at one point, he kind of looked at David and he saw that he had God's blessing, and he kind of gave up his saddles, I think his sword, and there was other stuff.
Armor, shield.
Kind of a sign of respect. Jonathan was the prince of the kingdom. He was next in line, but he still humbled himself and kind of like devoted himself to what God had in plan. Even though his friend was even taking his position practically, he kind of saw that potential. He was okay with that because he loved David and he respected God and he humbled himself. Would there be a situation in your life, whether it's with me or anybody else, that you kind of had to humble yourself, or you kind of had to let your friend have the upper hand in the situation?
Man, that's like really hard for me to remember. I think like sometimes we'll do something for, maybe this is not like completely that, but we'll do something for ministry, right? Like we'll just help around the church. And then people notice, when you're in the church, especially in a smaller church, and you're doing stuff for the church, people notice these things.
Yeah, they always call it out on stage sometimes.
Yeah, but usually sometimes people will get like, one person will get more recognition than the other person. And if you're not in a good relationship with that other person, then there could be like room for jealousy and just like, oh man, I wanted recognition. Because honestly, reputation is a thing at church, and doing these things, of course, they help your reputation. Like that's just the truth. Like no way around it. But I think it's also great when you have the humility not to take recognition in certain situations that people don't necessarily see. And one situation of that is when like one person does one thing for the church, but you're like both doing it. Actually, two people are doing one thing for the church, but one person gets the recognition, and you're just like, I wanted that recognition, but it's okay. You don't need it because you trust your friend, and then you uplift him.
I think that goes my way too. Even though I'm older, there was times where I felt like I did more of the work or something like that, and I had to give you more credit. And when you are in a true relationship, there's just this ease of giving, this kind of heart. And it comes with like denying yourself, kind of like saying that it's not all about me. Another aspect about Jonathan's and David's relationship is there was we already know that Jonathan had to protect David from his dad. And that meant, being truthful and honest with David about certain situations. Was there any situation where you felt like it was a tough scenario, and you knew it could complicate the relationship, but you were still willing to be honest with that person?
Yeah. That's really tough.
I mean, we live in America. There's not that much tough scenarios.
That's true, yeah. I think, like, honestly, sometimes we will do, let's say we do a podcast, right? And it doesn't go so well.
Oh, okay, we can end this now.
Okay. It doesn't go so well, right? And you're just like, you want to tell him that it wasn't the best, that we could have done better, but you don't want to like hurt his feelings, right? But you realize that the honesty is the best way to go, because that's the best. That's how you grow in a relationship, is when you're upfront about everything. You don't hide things from your friend. When you do, those issues are just going to continue to grow and get worse, right? And then you guys will not change. You're not going to continue to grow in your relationship. It's not going to be better, and you're not going to have communication skills. That's one thing in a relationship that matters so much is like communication. Like I could tell you up front that I can like go to you and be like, tell you what's going on in my life right away. I could be like, this isn't happening, and I don't like how it's going. I need you to help me out in this situation. Or I don't like this, and this. Like, it's okay to correct your friends. There's actually this verse I had saved in preparation for this podcast. It's Proverbs 19:20. And it says, listen to advice and accept discipline, and at the end you will be counted among the wise. So if you as the friend, or if I as the friend, accept the advice and the discipline, then I will grow. And in the end, the wisdom that I received and that I implemented in my life, it will bless me. Like it's literally, when I go up to you and I correct you in one thing, or you correct me, that's just another blessing that I get to add on if I accept that correction. And that's really important in a relationship, in my opinion.
I think choosing the right friends is also part of maturity.
Yeah.
Kind of. Talk about honesty. It's super important to have someone with a different perspective, or someone who could say something straightforward into your life. And I think it's very biblical to have a good friend.
Yeah.
Especially since we're Christians in the church, it's very important for us when we decide to follow God and to, kind of like focus on that. We find the people that we tend to go back to the part where, I grew up with this guy, so I want to be friends with this guy. But it's really important to maybe make a new friend, or, work something out with your current friend, that you guys will be a sword for each other. You guys will sharpen each other.
Yeah.
And kind of finding that stone in your life that, he won't give up on you. He will keep on helping you. He will take care of your needs, and you will take care of him and his needs. You guys will take care of each other weaknesses. And there is just so much more benefit in having a friend. But, that's kind of like for us as Christians. But what about like unchristians? Can we still have strong friendships with unchristians as Christians, for example? Because, there's a lot of friends. There's a lot of Christians that still have friends that are outside of, in the world.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Yeah. I think, oh man, I'm sorry if I bring this up, because it's been used so much and it kind of annoys me. But when you're, that example where
I already know what you're talking about.
Exactly. Yeah. So you already know what I'm talking about.
The guy on the stage and the guy,
and he's
at
like
the
trying to
bottom.
pull him up. I honestly, when I see that, I'm just like, okay, you got. I don't know. It's overused.
So yeah,
It's okay. Dennis was the final straw. Like he's able to do that because he's Pastor Dennis. But anyone else, like just
yeah, the guy on the stage and the guy on the floor.
Yeah,
they're
and
having like an arm wrestle. Of course, the guy on the stage is gonna have a weaker leverage.
Yeah.
He's gonna lose, and that's kind of like when we as Christians go out in the world and try to be friends with somebody. If we're not super duper strong in God, of course we have the weaker leverage. Besides that, I also feel like, having good, strong friends. Like, we could be friends. We could be nice.
Yeah.
We could be encouraging. We could be a good example to people out in the world. But
for sure, yeah.
Having a best friend in the world, like, you guys kind of have to have a common goal. What are your common goal? Like a hobby or something? Like, for me, it's God. God is really important in my life. So I have a common goal with you, which is God.
Yeah.
Of course, it's like also serving the church, building these new projects, other stuff. But for the most part, we have like God as like our super glue that holds us together.
Yeah.
Not super glue, something even stronger than that.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's true. Our common goal is Christ. It's Jesus. That's the center of our relationship. I think so, and that's like the most important thing. But in the world, I think there are still advantages as well as disadvantages, and I'll explain that. It's like your advantages are, if let's say you're at school, right, or you're in the workplace, and it's better to work with people than to not work with people, because you're twice as efficient if you work with people, especially if you have good chemistry.
Yeah.
And usually that's the case. And when you have good chemistry with someone at work, that could benefit you in that situation. And then while that is happening, while you have that good chemistry and you're working really well together, you can also be an example to that person. As what is Christ? Talk about your faith. Like, just be open, Most people are open. Maybe some people are a little closed off, but it just takes work, But when you're in the work environment and you know that person, then it's possible to be that influence. I remember...
I just interrupt you
go
for a second. I
for
do see that big difference between being a best friend and a friend to someone. Is when you're in the world, you're being a friend to them. But when you're choosing a best friend, you're expecting him, maybe to not the same degree, but still expecting him to be the same friend to you that you are to him.
Yeah.
Like in the church, if you're making a best friend that will follow God with you, then you're expecting him to help you and kind of like hold up your weak part of yourself. But in the world, we got to be friends. We got to show that loving side. We got to show Jesus to all of them.
Yeah. It's more of like a kind of like a gospel representation in a way. But you kind of have to. This is a question that I'm going to ask.
There is a verse in the Bible that says that Jesus was a friend to everyone. Like he doesn't treat everyone as slaves anymore, but as friends because he died on the cross for everyone's sake. He was being a friend to everyone.
Yeah.
Right, continue what you were saying.
No, that's good. Thank you for adding that. Oh man, I lost my train of thought. Oh, that sucks. It's okay. Point is, friends in the world, it's okay, but also show the light of Christ. Oh, okay. So you have to ask yourself this question. Are you friends with that person just because you want to be friends with them? Or do you have like Christ in mind as like you're the representation of Christ? You know what I mean by that? Like kind of like
what your intention is.
Yeah, what your intention with that friendship is. Like you kind of have to question that. And I'm not really going to answer that for you. Like you kind of have to read the Bible and figure that out and kind of pull wisdom off of that and kind of like figure that out for yourself. Don't stay away from people from the world. I don't think that's how the church should be. The church shouldn't be closed off. You need to be open to people, but also worry about your own salvation. That's important.
Okay. So we got finding a best friend in the church.
Yeah.
It's very important, someone you could work with and grow toward God. It's very essential to each individual. And then learning how to be a good friend to people out in the world and, showing Christ to them. And are we missing anything else?
I think that's it.
That's it? We're just going to wrap up
Okay,
here?
well, that's not even the end of that topic.
Whoa! I had so much more to say.
I know. It's okay. We got next episode coming next 2 weeks. I don't even know. And like the next 2 weeks, we'll have episode 2, and we could talk about more stuff. But for now,
we talk about friendships now. We're gonna talk about enemies later.
Yeah.
No, I'm joking.
I'm just going.
So, are you guys ready for the
surprise?
We got a surprise.
All right, David, let's go.
All right, guys.
Let's go.
Follow us. We're about to show you something awesome.